and so I want to say thank you. As your colleague, I don't think we appreciate you enough, and so I want to take this moment to say thank you. And I just want to take a second just to thank in general the entire African American community. You see, I've had a rich life. I'm a very proud third generation Angelino, Mexican American, and proud of my heritage and my roots. I've had a rich life. I've traveled the world. I've met many great people like yourselves. I've done a few things that are noteworthy, and so I'm been really blessed and feel very blessed today. But none of that happens without this very special, unique interaction that my family has had with the African American community. My father's life began to take form when he lived in the South, when he trained as a paratrooper. My household was full of African American friends of my parents that they had from the factories that they worked at. Bernadette was my mom's best friend, and Shaw was a big African American man living up in Altadena. Used to be at our house, Borough Heights. Very rich life experience that enriched my life, both through sports, as you know, Coach Wesson, and through my first encounter with Winston Dobie, who was my mentor and who took me to UCLA. That changed my life, and it inspired me with a sense of service. He introduced me to Bill Elkins, got me a job with Mayor Tom Bradley. I got to meet Olivia Mitchell, who my granddaughters call Grandma, and it began to propel my life of public service. Of course, you know my relationship with the Rainbow Coalition and Jesse Jackson. I've got to meet Reverend Lawson. My wife and I, when she was alive, we traveled with the Reverend throughout the South. So all I've done in my life for my community has been part of what I've benefited from, the African American community. The courage that I learned, the fight for justice. When I was the head of Local 660, that was an African American union. And I learned so much from Jackie Cox and Patsy Howard, right? And spent a lot of Sundays with Bishop Blake, you know, at West Angeles and all the churches in South LA. And so I just want to say thank you. It's just been such a blessing for me. Mr. Wesson, you've been chief of staff when we met. Then you were my speaker, my president. And as you know, I'll never forget all you did when my wife was ill. That's for life. And so I've learned so much. Marquise Harris Dawson, you took me the other day to the African American Film Critics, and it was amazing the generosity and the spirit and the openness in the city today, Mr. Mayor, because you'll remember this, and all of us remember. Who would think that today we would be celebrating this unity? The African American Film Critics Award honored Parasite, made by Koreans. And then today we continue to mourn the loss of Kobe. Kobe, who was teaching us about unity, a man for the world, because our communities are communities of the world. I went by Saturday, and it was amazing to be there, so surreal and serene at the same time. Just so special. Men and women hugging each other, crying, biracial families. Now that's unity. And so I just needed to take this second to say thank you. When you think of the place and the moment we're in history in this nation, what we heard yesterday, that foolishness, and what we'll hear later today, that denial of history and reality, Mr. Mayor, you talk about we are making history. This city, and as you say, Mr. Weston, the winds of this nation start from the west to the east. And boy, do they need us now. This room and what we're experiencing here at this very moment, at this time. Mr. Osborne, you forgot you played for me at my Unity Gala with Reverend Jesse Jackson. You sure did, and I thank you for that. And so I just want to close by saying I want to thank all the African American community for what they do for this city, but what they've done for me is I've served my community and and I've done the best that I can, but I've done so because I've learned so much. That spirit of service comes to me and through me from the African American community. That courage to fight, to do what's right, comes from my experiences with the African American community. And that unity and that need for unity, I know, comes from that. Because we are all committed to this belief that all of us should pursue and continue to fight for the dignity and respect that God all intended us. Thank you.